Hello friends, for today's video we're going to be chatting through episodes 44 through 49 of Attack on Titan Season 3. Sort of a recurring theme here is me not knowing who the stupid Beast Titan is, but I was thinking more about it after last week where I was like, I feel like that vision is pretty clear, the one that Eren has when Krista and her dad are touching his back and he has some kind of memory, or he has a series of memories that flash through his mind. And in my head, I'm like, I don't think I'm right. I don't think it's his dad, but it looks like his dad. So I still don't know who it is, but I think Eren's dad, I think he was a Titan. That is what it would seem the visions were showing us. And then Eren ate his dad, and then because of the information we learned previously, that if you eat a human that has Titan powers, you then gain those powers if you eat them as a Titan, and that's also how you turn back into a human. I think it's for once actually being a little bit straightforward, and that's what it comes down to. So I don't think the Beast Titan is his dad. And the reason I'm stating this first is because the first thing I wrote for episode 44, which is titled Wish, is a quote that says, "You'll be the one to avenge your mother." So I think that his dad is just dead, which makes me kind of sad because I want answers, and I've been kind of hoping that he's around somewhere and that we would get answers from him. But alas, I don't think it's his dad. I don't know who it is, though, and it's irritating me. But anyway, moving on. I wrote, this scene is awesome. So if you need a refresher of where we left off and hence have picked up with this moment, you are seeing Eren is chained up. Krista and her father are planning to have Krista do the very thing I just described, where she will eat him and then she'll gain his powers, which evidently they actually can tap into even more because of the fact that she is of a certain royal bloodline. And now our heroes are trying to rescue Eren. And this particular scene is them going through this crystallized material within this underground area. And it's Kenny and his forces. And then you've got Hanji and Levi, and then all of our other characters, Connie, Sasha. And it's so cool. This whole season, first off, this season has been the best in my opinion so far. Once again, I feel like the animation is great. There's something about when you have so many different characters using their gear, because that's part of what I think makes not just that the action is exciting, but different from what I see from a lot of other animated shows. It just has a different effect to see them zipping around the way they do, because it's something about the way in which the speed can accelerate and then slow down, and they can go at different angles. So to have them kind of fighting each other all while utilizing their equipment and in this cool environment, but also it's one where it's very easy for people to get behind stuff and then to latch onto something and then to change direction really fast. Oh, but wait, somebody else is over here, so I gotta watch my back. Anyway, I just thought the scene was really cool. Hanji is fine, because at one point Hanji gets knocked down and I was like, she's gotta be fine, okay? We can't stop it. Don't do that. So far, my heroes have been okay this season, and I'm worried because I know it's not gonna last. I'm not ready yet, so I was glad that Hanji was indeed fine, which I have a note later that made me chuckle because Irwin was pretty like, yeah, she's fine. But anyway, we'll get to that when we get to that. Getting to obnoxious Krista's dad, though. He keeps telling her, Krista, eat Eren, and if you eat Eren, then you can save everything, basically, right? You can get rid of all the other Titans. You can save the world. And I'm sitting here like, wait, why did nobody else do this before? I was losing my mind. I wrote, hey, hold on. Why didn't you eliminate the Titans before? And then I wrote parentheses, meaning Krista's dad, because I didn't want to forget. But it's pretty unforgettable. And then I wrote, Krista can't be serious, because when she's actually like, but I want my dad's approval, and also maybe it's the right thing to do, and she's heading over to Eren, I was like, don't, stop it. I know Eren will be fine, because he's kind of like the titular character, but I was still really aggravated that she was even considering it, and I was like, Krista, can you not be so easily manipulated constantly? She's always flip-flopping, like, Ymir, I will go wherever you go, it's us together, and then she's like, maybe I shouldn't, and I'm just, the indecisiveness of her makes her so annoying. So annoying. When I said she can't be serious, I also wrote in my notes, if she tries, Mikasa will kill her. there's not even a second of hesitation that will occur. Mikasa's just gonna wipe her out. But then that doesn't happen. I was also thinking, I'm like, is Mikasa gonna kill her and her dad? It just seemed like that was a likely possibility. Anyway, I really liked that Kenny is just like, wait, what? It has to be a royal line? Are you serious? And he's like, I just want to watch the world burn. And he just wreaks havoc, which I did kind of enjoy that. I once again, with a lot of exclamation points and question marks, because I was so irritated at Krista and her dad, I said, why didn't her family take them out then? And then finally, I wrote, finally, thank you. Because she finally is like, wait a second, so how come we haven't done it before? And I'm like, yeah, Krista, dummy, you should think of, how do you not think of this instantly? How are you not like, that doesn't make any sense. We've had this power for generations and generations, and we've just sat on it. And then I wrote, haha, Krista hitting Aaron, because at some point Aaron's like, no, please, kill me. And I was like, that doesn't even make any sense, Aaron, because as we have just discussed, I don't think that she's gonna, for whatever reason, have the ability to take out the other Titans. I think it's all a lie, and her dad just wants to retain the power, and he just wants Krista to have it, all this stuff. So when Aaron's crying, being like, I kind of felt bad for Aaron, because he definitely has survivor's guilt. He is constantly throughout the series wrestling with this feeling of uselessness, because when he's in his human form, because there's that joke, and it's kind of cute, of all adjectives to use, when he actually kills a Titan in human form, he's like, it's my first one, in the whole tower section. But regardless, he just wrestles with the fact that he's not as skilled as Mikasa and some of the others, and when he is in his Titan form, sometimes he still can't save the day, and I do feel bad for him, and him thinking, well, if my life itself is something that I can sacrifice for the greater good, I'm willing to do that. Just do it. Just take it. Because what's even the point? I have all this power and it'd be better in somebody else. Anyway, so it was sad, but I was kind of amused that Kristen just smacked him. And I did put in my notes, that's twice now that he's had sense knocked into him, because way back when he was a child in episode 2 or 3, it was one of the first episodes, when he's just yelling at Armin and then Mikasa smacks him. So apparently sometimes Aaron just needs to be hit a little bit to remember, like, oh yeah, I have value. We move on to episode 45, which is called Outside the Walls of Orvid District. I found it kind of funny that initially everybody is just sassing Aaron, but then Levi has that really sweet moment where he like kind of smiles, and then he's like, oh, you guys, thank you. I was like, oh, poor Levi. I kind of feel, I do feel quite bad for Levi, because everybody always dies around him, and he's always like the last person standing, and I can only imagine how much it weighs on him. I almost feel like he has the opposite. Not that he doesn't have survivor's guilt also, but because he has so much skill, there is this, I do kind of wonder about his character recognizing that his skill is so important to the cause, but then also the fact that it's the thing that keeps him alive, and that he continuously, because he's skilled, has to watch everybody else around him be brutally eaten, smashed to pieces. So I do feel that him and Aaron have similar things going on internally, but he also is kind of older and wiser, and I really like this character. I know last week I was gushing about him a lot, so I'll move on. Also, this is now the note involving Hanji. When she's injured, and her injuries seemed pretty bad, and Irwin looks at her and he's like, oh, nothing too serious. And I wrote my notes, I mean, she didn't lose an arm, but still I feel like her injuries seem kind of serious. They were pretty bad, but Hanji's made of tougher stuff, I suppose. I put a bunch of little stars around this. I put Dot Pixis note, because I didn't want to forget. So way back when the whole Trost arc is occurring, and there's that, I'm going to call it intermission, during the fighting, where they realize Aaron can tap into Titan capabilities, and if that's the case, maybe if he can control himself in Titan form, he can plug the hole. When he's giving this rallying speech to all these people, he also turns to Aaron and starts filling him in on, back in the day, and he starts listing all of these things, including, we had this idea of there being this common enemy, which seems to be related to the first king's will. And some of the rhetoric that Krista's dad and Krista seemed to see and stuff, or Aaron saw and stuff, some of those things seem related to the things that Dot Pixis knows. And it's not that I think Dot Pixis is, well, maybe he's secretly a Titan, I don't know. But anything's possible, I feel like, in this show. So maybe he is, maybe he's a Titan. But he seems to know a decent amount that maybe he shouldn't, or it doesn't make sense that he knows. So I don't know if it's that he's a Titan and that he's been holding on to certain secrets. I don't quite think it's that. But it doesn't seem as though the memory wiping abilities that it would seem the Ackermans have an immunity to, it almost seems like he has a hint of that too. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe he just has heard stuff kind of the same way Armin's heard about there being a sea somewhere. Maybe it's just that certain texts have managed to slip through and he's heard rumors over the years. I don't know. But it just seemed notable to me that Dot Pixis has somewhat been hinting at certain revelations that we've been having as of late. I don't know if he actually knows anything. Moving on to episode 46, Ruler of the Walls. So, I thought at first with that title, I was like, oh, is Eren somehow going to use the Titans within the walls? Because I have forgotten to mention, Krista's dad was like, no, well, if she won't be a Titan, I'll be one. And then he turns into one that just scoots, but he's massive. So with this one being Ruler of the Walls, I was like, oh, maybe Eren will use his Titan powers where he can activate something related to the other Titans, and maybe, I don't know, I keep bringing this theory up, and I don't actually think it's going to happen. I keep thinking someone's going to use the Titans that are in the walls. So I thought maybe that's what Eren would do, and he would hence be the Ruler of the Walls. That was not the case, but that was my initial thought. And then I kind of miss Rainer, because I want to know what's going on with Rainer and Bertholdt. They haven't made an appearance really at that point. In episode 46, we have not really seen them. I don't know where they are. I don't know what they're up to. I'm nervous about the Beast Titan. So with this, I don't know that I miss him literally as a character. I just mean I miss there being more revelations in regards to that character. I miss there being reveals potentially, or at least hints at certain things involving that character. And at this point, I kind of feel like things that maybe hint that there are other people outside the walls, which is something I've been wondering from the very beginning, if they really are the only people left. And the way Rainer would talk to Bertholdt about their village, it just made me feel like, is that something around? It doesn't really seem like it's around here. Anyway, that had nothing really to do with what was happening in this episode. I was just kind of like, I don't know if we're going to see him for a while. And then I also put, oh my gosh, the townsfolk, because they're so obnoxious when they're like, we need to tell people the truth. And then the townsfolk are like, oh, the stupid military, I see what's happening. They're just trying to they're just being so annoying. And it also, though, I appreciated this being there because it does feel relatively realistic. I do feel like there is sometimes mob mentality. Anywho, I don't want to legitimize that one torturer's mindset, though, of like, well, the people are all stupid and the only reason we've maintained peace is because we have harmed a lot of people. Like, that's not my favorite line of thinking. Sometimes people are dumb, and sometimes these townsfolks are townsfolks? All right, the irony of me saying townsfolks when I'm trying to imply that they're stupid. I wrote moody boy Eren because he was being really moody, but then immediately after I put confident Eren, because he starts being like, let's go, guys. And I was like, yeah, here we go. And then with the way this episode ends, I wrote, oh, dang. I am glad with how massive this Titan was, and it at first came across like, oh my gosh, how are we going to possibly defeat something this massive? I did like that the ingenuity of the characters, as well as working together, having the scouts, the people on the walls that are firing at them. I liked that everybody came together to pretty quickly eliminate this Titan. I'm glad that this wasn't an ongoing one, because I do feel that the Beast Titan has sort of been set up to be our ultimate enemy, and this was kind of just a very large bump in the road. I just liked the way in which this was resolved. This particular Titan also, it didn't really seem as though it had the same level of intelligence and information. It just kind of seemed like, while yes, the royal line is supposed to have more of the memories and such things, it didn't seem like this one had enough time in its Titan form to really be as big of a threat, outside of the fact that it is literally really big. So I did like the way in which they defeated it. I don't care about Krista being the queen, though. I don't know how people feel about some of these characters. One of my friends who loves Attack on Titan was telling me she loves Krista, and I was like, Krista might be kind of bottom tier for me. Or at least second to bottom. Well, Beast Titan's bottom. He can have the whole bottom tier. But she might be second. I don't really love Krista. It was a cool scene, though, where she was decisive and she was telling Irwin, no, I'm gonna fight, and Irwin's like, well, there's not much I can do, I guess. You see that she does have this really great scene, and she's now not only a ruler of the people, but she is one of the people. She's somebody who is willing to fight for them and sacrifice for them. I do really appreciate all of that. I just kind of wish it was a different character. But maybe she'll grow on me, perhaps. I don't know. Moving on, though, to episode 47. I'm a little distracted because Luna Bear is right here, and she really wants pets, so I'm giving her pets. But let's keep going. So, friends. I did find it really quite interesting that it would seem Kenny did the Reese family's bidding to keep the Ackermans from being persecuted. And it does make him not necessarily a quietly heroic figure necessarily, but it does provide us with a little bit more nuance to him, because at first he just kind of seems almost caricature-like. Not that I was assuming was going to stay that way, but he does kind of initially be like, I'm going to kill everybody around you, Levi, you're a runt, and he just didn't seem like there was that much at first, but knowing how this show develops its characters, I knew there would probably be more. I will admit, I don't know that I feel the way in which his backstory was revealed to us. I do think it made sense pacing-wise, because we did just have this very triumphant moment, and then it makes sense that we're kind of slowing down, we're getting more information, about Levi, the fact that he was his uncle, that Kenny was Levi's uncle, which I think there was hints of that before, but regardless, I do think that it makes sense that we get a little bit more to do with Kenny. It's just, there are other characters that I find maybe more fascinating and that I want to spend more time with, and we get a pretty large chunk of an episode kind of dedicated to Kenny, and I almost wonder if we could have sort of mixed this in. It's not really a criticism. I just think that maybe this wasn't my all-time favorite episode, which is fine. It's fine. But it just didn't have as much to it that I was wowed by, gripped by, moved by. But it did provide some interesting information and additional context to Levi. Plus, there is the fact that we now have this injection available. So we do kind of leave off with that. And of course, that's going to come into play. But I'm going to go through my notes for this episode relatively quickly. So I put absolution through power, because the first king and the way in which he speaks to, or at least the descendant of, but their will is kind of manifested in whoever takes this power. So the way in which they speak to Kenny and their worldview of things, it just seems like that's kind of what they were hinting at. I also wrote digging the Witcher-like music. There was some music that reminded me of music in the Witcher video game. Then we do see, for all of my, I kind of miss hearing stuff about Rainer. Saving Annie can come later. Retrieving the coordinate is our priority, as it should be. And then I just wrote, who is it? It's driving me crazy. So, moving on now to episode 48, which is titled Bystander. Hanji's excitement over killing the Titans. So they built this machine, you could almost say, that drops something onto the napes of the Titans, because they have somebody who just kind of stands behind some of the crystal formations that Aaron has made, and that person just stands there, and then the Titans come in, they stick their head through, and then she has created this idea to wipe them out, and she is so pumped about it. I think she calls herself the executioner from hell or something like that. So I did enjoy how much Hanji enjoyed taking these Titans out. I don't know if I like people having the ore in their homes. So once they discovered all of the materials that were in that place where Aaron was chained up, they're now using those resources to help people. But there is a part of me that's like, well, I mean, that was created from a Titan, and perhaps it's completely fine. I just kind of fear when stuff like that ends up being a part of everybody's living situations, because I don't know, I just fear, like, what if somehow they all become little Titans that then... I don't know. I don't know what my fear is exactly. I think it makes me uneasy. Then I have Marlo and Aaron are both oblivious. Okay, I love Marlo. He's very sweet and he is naive. But when they're like, I think Hitch, they're sitting at a table for context. And it's a lot of our younger characters. And they're talking about, I think that girl Hitch really liked you, Marlo, huh? And they're like, they're basically implying that. And he was like, well, I think it's important that she does what she's supposed to do. I told her so. And he's just not aware whatsoever. And everybody's like, ah. And then Aaron says something along the lines of, what? I think he did the right thing. And it's pretty notable that they're both totally clueless. This is probably nothing, but I think it does just reinforce that what Aaron saw in his vision was not a fluke. It wasn't some kind of trick, that it likely did seem to be accurate that Aaron's dad was a Titan and then Aaron ate his dad. And the thing is just fangs. So Sadie's, the particular person that was the commandant, I believe. Yeah, Commandant Keith Sadie's, I believe was his full name. So he tells Aaron that he has fangs like his father. He says something like, you look like your mother except for you have your father's fangs. Something like that. And I'm like, Aaron Yeager seemed, or excuse me, not Aaron, Grisha Yeager, seemed kind of nice. So I feel like using the word fangs, which is more so associated with monsters, to me implies like, yeah, we're just solidifying his dad was a Titan and he ate him. All the patients Yeager saved, did he use something on that? Like, okay, so they're talking about how you kind of get some history with his dad and the commandant, so you're getting a little more context here. And his father, it would seem, was completely oblivious as to where he was, what was going on, but he's like, can I be inside the walls? Oh, tell me about scouts. And I'm like, well, that's a little suspicious. But I used to think his dad was bad. I'm kind of like, I don't think his dad is bad anymore. I don't think his dad is bad. I just think his dad knew stuff, and I want to know what he knew. But he was treating patients, and I don't think he was injecting them with the same sort of thing that, like the spinal fluid of the Titans. I don't think it was anything like that. But I did wonder if he knew maybe a little bit more about medicine, if he came from somewhere else, maybe has more information that's more advanced than the people within the walls. But I don't know, because I feel like he did save a lot of people kind of quickly. It sort of seemed like he maybe was trying to keep a low profile, but then when push came to shove, he was like, I want to help these people. And I don't know if we're ever going to get any answers as to those things specifically, but it did seem like maybe he had a little more knowledge than a lot of the other doctors. And then the last thing I wrote, which is not shocking, I was like, oh, the commandant messed with his gear? What? I think it was less so a shock to know that the commandant would do something like that, and more so just like, wow, everything comes back, doesn't it? So much of this feels like it has been hinted at and foreshadowed, which, speaking of, I'm still waiting to know what the heck's going on with the flowers. Because they have 100% shown those flowers in really notable scenes. I did criticize a little bit the fact that they had Armin look and be like, oh, that flower wasn't there before, I could have sworn. So I do think that the flowers mean something, but we haven't really seen them notice the flowers. They haven't really seemed to have anything to say about the flowers for a while, so I'm like, ugh, I want to know what the heck's up with the flowers too. Anyway, so the last episode for today, Night of the Battle to Retake the Wall. I was pumped when I saw that title. I was like, let's go. And we pretty much just stopped with them getting ready. And I was like, no, dang it. Another horrible place to stop. But the first thing I wrote was, whoa, don't show Zachary the Titan fluid. The bizarre weirdo guy, don't show him anything. I get that he's high up and he kind of helped you with the coup. And maybe he's helped restore some faith in the government, but also if they saw the sorts of things that he likes to do, I don't think they'd be a fan of this guy. Hopefully nothing comes of it. He doesn't seem like he's set on, I want to be a Titan and I want to have world domination. He seems more like, I want to spend time in shadowy cells and corners doing really weird stuff to people. So maybe it's fine that they showed him the Titan fluid. It just makes me nervous. Beast Titan... Oh, I don't think this is a thing. I was like, is the Beast Titan Irwin's dad? Because he's blonde, and Irwin's dad was a teacher, so that means he had a lot of information, and he seemed to know more things. But I also immediately wrote, well, that would mean his grave was empty, because you do see a scene earlier where Irwin is at his father's grave, and it's possible that there's not actually his body there. I don't recall. I know they said he died doing something, and then you just see little Irwin at the grave, but I'm like, I don't think it's him. I don't think it's Irwin's dad. I still feel like it's some association with Aaron's dad. I just don't know how. And then I wrote, Irwin and Levi, he cares more about the truth than humanity. So there is a conversation between Levi and Irwin, where Levi is somewhat urging / threatening Irwin, and basically he's trying to ensure Irwin does not put himself in harm's way by going on going into this battle to retake the wall. And Irwin is pretty much like, no, I'm going. And every time Levi's like, do you want me to break your legs? And he's like, I'm going. So Levi's finally like, But they have a conversation that gets to be a little bit less just Levi threatening Irwin, and more so the root of why Irwin is so eager to go. And Irwin's like, I have to know. And Levi pretty much straight up asks him, I mean, basically the impression is, do you care more about doing what's best for humanity? Because what would be best for humanity would be for you to stay here, because we need you, we need your mind, we need your ideas, we need you here. And not to burst your bubble, but you're not exactly the fighter you once were. You could cause us to end up having issues if we're trying to protect you. And Irwin's like, I'm gonna go. So the idea is, it comes down to why. Why, if you staying behind is best for humanity, would you still want to go? And he talks about just, he has to know the truth. And this was, even though I love Irwin, this just goes to show how much he has become so consumed with having to know, to the point where it seems like he does care more about this knowledge than about saving humanity. And I think at some point this twisted. His vision for the world kind of got, well, maybe it was always slightly there, because obviously you see hints of when he was learning from his father that they were not being told everything, they being the society behind the walls. And he has wanted to know this, but he also, I think, genuinely for a long time was relatively pure in his intentions as far as he wanted to know the truth. But I think the idea of knowing the truth went hand in hand with doing what was best for humanity, because if they could find the truth, they could save humanity. And now it's gotten to a point where he's watched so many people die, he has seen so many things at this point, that there's not as much of humanity left. And I think he's to a point where it's like, he's so obsessed with this over here that he doesn't really care as much about humanity anymore. So in a sense, it's not that he's become a villain, but he isn't the hero as much anymore. And it's sad, because I love this character. He's maybe my favorite character in the whole show. Certainly a character that there is a quiet depth to, and I really like the way in which he has been revealed to us over the course of these first, 2.5, 3 seasons. I know we're not completed with this. We haven't finished this season yet, but despite that, I appreciate what they've shown with him. And even though it makes me sad that he's maybe not that perfect character, at the same time, I'm glad he's not, because I think it makes him seem more realistic. It shows that he is flawed. And it also, what makes me really sad is I'm like, it's hinting that he's not the best leader anymore, and I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear it, because I need him. I feel like they keep being like, you love Irwin? Well, what if he dies? And then they're like, well, we'll just take his arm. And then they're like, you love Irwin? Well, what if the politicians execute him in front of everybody? And you're like, stop doing this to me. But I feel like they're like getting to that. I don't want it to happen, but if it does, I'm like, well, they've kind of been foreshadowing it. They've also been kind of showing that he's not exactly as good of a guy as maybe he seems. I mean, he's still good, but he also is kind of selfish, feels like the wrong word, but a little bit, like, and it hurts a little, because I don't want that. I just want him to be like, all right, I'll stay behind. It's what's best for everybody. But at the same time, I'm like, he's so cool, though. I want him in the battle, because I feel like he's somehow still going to be awesome, because we all know where season 2 ended, that whole last battle was so incredible, and he was so incredible in it. So moving on, I wrote, haha, the meat scene, because when they're like, wait, we get meat? And then they all just start punching each other, and they tie Sasha up, and it was nonsense, and it was fun. But it was kind of funny when Jean and Aaron were fighting, and they're like, why is nobody stopping us? Oh shoot, are we gonna have to actually keep fighting each other? It was just such a nonsense scene. And I did get a little emotional when the townspeople, hey, 180, good, because earlier I was commenting on the fact that they were like, oh, geez, the government and the military and the scouts, meh. And then now they're like, yeah, you're our hero. So I'm glad they got this nice send-off because they deserve it. I specifically wrote the people thanking them, with an exclamation point, finally getting the respect they deserve with another exclamation point. I really appreciated that scene. They deserve it. I'm once again still nervous, though, because I'm like, it feels like they're giving us this last hurrah. Like, the people don't really know the truth about Irwin, so they still see him as a hero. And then I feel like the implication is that he's going to not come back, but he'll get to die a hero. And I'm like, no, I don't want him to die. I hope I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong. The last thing I wrote was prediction. Levi will become a Titan to save Irwin. That's my hope. But I also am like, because the injection that they found that Kenny left for them, obviously they presented to Zachary and other people, and I mean it has to come into the picture. I want it to be used. Maybe they're gonna fake me out. Maybe they're going to make it seem like Irwin's gonna die, and then Levi will use it on Irwin. Maybe Irwin will become a Titan. That would be kind of cool. Can Levi even become a Titan? Because the memory wiping abilities don't work on Ackermans, it would seem. No, they've told us that. But I do wonder if that means just in general they can't become Titans. It almost feels like a Van Helsing to vampires vibe, like Monster Hunters. That's sort of the impression, but can the Monster Hunter become the monster? I don't know. I did write something that I forgot to mention. It was back with the episode that was more so rooted in Kenny and what he's done for Ackermans. But I wrote, haha, okay, so it is unclear if Mikasa is related, because there's when you have what would be episode breaks, or excuse me, commercial breaks within the episodes, they usually flash some kind of reminder information like, information about their gear, or it would seem that people that eat Titans get their Titan powers. You know, they give you these reminders. And there's one where it shows, I think it's the profiles or the silhouettes of Mikasa and Levi and I think Kenny, and it's like, Kenny is related to him as his uncle. Mikasa related? And I think there's a question mark or something, and I was like, okay, because last week I was saying, wait, am I just a complete moron? Which sometimes, yes, but in this instance, I was unsure if I just missed that completely, and it would seem that the show's like, no, it's okay. It's unclear to lots of people. It kind of feels like the joke in Avatar: Last Airbender. I won't say the character's name in case you haven't seen. I don't want to spoil it for you. But there's a character where people are like, wait a second, is that guy alive or is he dead? And I feel like it's that same sort of thing where you're like, wait, are they related or are they not related? Once again, maybe this information will be revealed soon. But I forgot to mention that in talking about the Kenny episode. But anyway, this episode is great. I am so afraid of what's going to happen in this next section. How many episodes are in this season? Hold on, I need to check. I think I only have 2 more weeks. In fact, have 2 weeks left, but the last chunk has fewer episodes. So anyway, there's where we've left off. I'm nervous. Okay, speaking now more general thoughts about this whole batch of episodes. I do think that this was a weird chunk. I mentioned before, meaning last week, that sometimes when I have made this schedule breakdown, it's more rooted in episode amounts, not necessarily arcs, because I don't know where things are going to go, and I'm also terrified to look that up because I am so scared of spoilers. So I do sometimes end up accidentally stopping in the middle of an important moment, which did happen between last week and this week, meaning we got sort of the conclusion to Krista becoming the queen and learning more about the royal line, a little bit more Levi backstory. We learn a little bit more about how Titans form, the intelligent ones. And it stopped after 3 episodes. Then 2 of them, because it was such a monumental thing to defeat that one Titan, then we had 2 episodes that were kind of slowing down, gaining more information, getting ready for what comes next, and then we have the send-off. So it was kind of a weird mix. I don't feel it's fair of me to necessarily talk about this as a section, because it felt like pieces of 2 different moments, or it felt like a piece of an arc, and then just the in-between arcs. I kind of feel like the whole next chunk is going to basically be its own arc. But I did enjoy these episodes. I am enjoying the intrigue, starting to get more information. I definitely really appreciate that. Do I think the episodes 47 and 48 were as much of edge of your seat? No, but I do feel like they're the sorts of episodes that maybe on rewatch you're like, oh, because you'll have, of course, later on the information, so that certain things will jump out at you. Some of those slower scenes tend to have that effect. Anyway, I'm just scared. I don't know. I'm just saying nothing at this point because I'm like, I don't want to see what happens next. I do, but I don't. Okay. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye.